Hey everybody, we had a fantastic week in classes this week, and throughout the week we had 3 awesome lessons, and from those lessons it stemmed a bright idea in my head late last night, and I wanted to share those 3 lessons with you just in case you weren't in class when we had those discussions, and then definitely share that 4th part, the idea that I came up with last night. So if you give me a couple minutes of your time, I think this is going to be beneficial for all of us, kids, adults, people of all ages. Everybody can use what we're learning here in the karate school. The first was a conversation with our extreme skills kids about what do you want to be when you grow up, and how do you go about getting closer to that goal. So it stemmed from the conversation of goal setting in general to what do you want to be when you grow up, and then I took it a step further and well, what are you doing about that? What are you doing to get closer to becoming what it is you want to be? And a lot of the kids, right away, I'll Google it and I'll learn about it on the internet, and that's okay. Or I'll watch a video, and do that. What I was able to do is I showed the kids one step to basically further their education almost immediately and cut a whole bunch of time off from making mistakes. And that simply was find somebody in that field or industry and talk to them. You talk about things of how many things have we done in our lives where you just kind of stumbled through and you found out on your own, well, that wasn't the way to go about it. Now I have to go over here. And you ended up wasting a lot of time or a lot of money or both to find out, how to get to the right path. Well, by finding somebody in that industry or somebody who is in that profession and speaking to them first, you'll save all kinds of time. One of the little secrets that I shared with the kids in that class, and I'll share with you. At one time, for a very short stint of maybe 2 months, I was thinking about joining the Air Force. So it was my senior year in high school, and it was taking that career path. Do I go college or do I go military, or do I do something else? And the military approach presented itself, and so I thought, wow, a fighter pilot, that would be pretty exciting. All sorts of video games about that. You see some of the cool movies about that, and so I could have spent all sorts of time applying and going through boot camp to find out. And what saved me a whole lot of time and aggravation was I'm too tall. Fighter pilots or jets are basically made for people that are 5'10" or shorter. But of course, the recruiter wasn't offering that information at the time. I told him, hey, I'm interested in being a fighter pilot. Oh, sure, yeah, we can do that. And if I would have just taken his word for it, I wouldn't have been able to reach my goal and would have been frustrated throughout the entire path. So sharing that with the kids and telling them, we had some of the students say, well, I want to go into the military. A couple of people, I want to be a detective, or I want to be a police officer. And so right away I started pointing out, well, we've got a couple of parents in that field. Why don't we get together and I'll have you talk to them? And so right away now these kids at 10, 12, 13 years old are learning what is it going to take to make sure that they're the best in that field as they get a little bit older. So that was our first conversation. Our second conversation was talking about basically the best way to learn things is to understand that you don't know it. And what had happened in this particular class was we were trying to throw hook kicks, and the kids kept throwing crescent kicks. And it's a very small difference, but a hook kick, your foot is sideways, crescent kick, your foot is up, a crescent kick comes at an angle, a hook kick comes straight across. So to just your basic person, so what? They're very similar, and you're correct. To a martial artist, they're completely different. And so when we were working with the kids, we kept talking about, you've got to do this, you've got, I keep trying to explain it to them. And finally, one of the students, finally said, oh, I got to stop doing crescent kicks. And so just seeing that light bulb go on, I stopped the class immediately. We took a knee. And we had a quick conversation about that. Is now that student understands that I was doing it wrong and I know what I was doing wrong, now I can go about fixing it. And that was an important lesson for all of the kids to understand, and even for all of us as adults. A lot of times you'll be making a mistake, but if you don't understand what the mistake is, or you don't understand why you're making that mistake, it's next to impossible to fix. So the first step in learning, this is our second point, the first step in learning is to understand that you're making a mistake and how to fix it. And so now right away, the whole class, all sorts of light bulbs went on. So if you're struggling with math at home, how do you fix it? What's the problem and how do we fix it? By first understanding that there is the problem, now the kids are going to be able to get a whole lot better at their martial arts, right? Hook kicks are going to become phenomenal in the next several days or weeks. And at the same time, they're going to be able to take that skill and apply it outside. The third lesson happened yesterday and was working with a couple of teens, and we were doing some stick drills, and I'm watching them, and I didn't like what I was seeing. And it was lacking some intensity. And these were higher belt ranked students that had been doing the stick drills for long enough that I thought it should be better. So instead of just yelling at them and saying, you're doing it wrong, do it better, do it faster, I really stepped back for a second, and then my light bulb went on. These kids were lacking purpose. And so what I did real quick is I grabbed my sticks and I walked over to them and I said, what are you thinking about right now? And they both just kind of deer in the headlights stared. And finally what it came back was, well, I'm memorizing the 1, 2, 3, 4, the pattern that we're supposed to be doing. And I'm like, you've been doing this long enough that the pattern shouldn't matter. You've got to get outside of your own head and think about what is it you're trying to accomplish. And in stick drills, the idea is you want your sticks moving so fast that you're overwhelming your opponent so that you can hit them and they don't hit you. So when I told them this story and gave them the purpose, this is what you're trying to accomplish, step back, and within 20 seconds, their sticks were flying. And it was still in a safe drill and they were still learning, and so all of that was fantastic. But simply by giving them one purpose on this specific drill, it works. Which then, of course, triggered all sorts of other things. Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins talk about all the time. Live with a purpose. And so we started talking about that in the adult class. Is if you do something with a purpose, you're twice as likely to be successful at it. If you just go haphazardly about doing something, you might get results, you might not. But if you really hit, and so we talk about, I want to quit smoking, I want to lose weight, whatever. And if the idea is, well, I'm just going to do this, no, you're kind of flipping a coin to see if it's going to work. But if you tie it to a purpose, and what sprung into my mind was, a woman getting married, right? And you hear this from almost all brides. I'm going to fit into that dress, right? They've got a deadline. They've got a goal. Boy, do they have a purpose, right? I am going to fit into that. So whatever diet, whatever thing they need to eat or drink or not eat or drink, they're doing it to make sure that they fit into that dress so that they look awesome for that day. That's an awesome purpose. If you can apply that to everything that you do, and more importantly, if we can teach this to the kids, right? I'm terrible at mathematics. Well, let's give them a purpose. Why are mathematics important? And it's going to be different for different kids, right? So there is no one universal answer to give them. This is where we really have to sit down and process. And this is what I do all the time, is how can we show the kids a purpose to make it special to them so that they can internalize this and become awesome at that skill or ability. So with that kind of ties into my idea, or my fourth point that I wanted to talk to you about. And that was, this is, again, what I do 24/7, 365. The wheels are always turning on, how can I help this kid? How can I help this person? How can I help this parent? Calls come in. We've had parents calling me about different issues and challenges with their kids on a regular basis. And sometimes even the grandparents are now calling in and asking, and I love helping. And so what I want to do is I'm interested in creating a focus group. And this is going to be a super small but hyper intensive group of people. I'm looking to work with 4 to maybe 6 parents. And we're going to sit down and we're going to create a blueprint for your child from A to Z to help ensure that they're going to be successful. And the reason we're doing 4 to 6 is because this is going to be incredibly intensive and time consuming on my part. This is where I am just going to pour everything that I have from 25 years of working with kids into the parents and let them run with each of the skills and the things, right? We're going to be checking up. We're going to have projects due. We're going to have meetings on a monthly basis. And so this is still kind of fresh in my head, but if you think you're interested in being part of that focus group, either if you're watching the video on Facebook, you can private message me and let me know you're interested. If you're watching this on the blog or website or just from an email, you can email me and say, hey, I'd be interested in getting more information. The key elements right off the top of my head, number one, I'm not going to charge for this group. Right? I'm going to work hand in hand with these 4 to 6 parents at no charge, getting together at least once a month, possibly twice a month for a couple of hours, and we're just going to create a step-by-step blueprint. And this blueprint's going to be unique, right? This isn't, and I can't create one blueprint and say, here, give this to your child, right? Your child's not a carbon copy of anybody else, and that's the beauty. At the same time, that's going to be the hard work. We're going to have to really dig in and find what are your child's strengths, what are their weaknesses, where do we want them to be, what are they struggling with right now, what can we help with, and how can we go about that? And so with each of these families, it's going to be completely different. So I'm super excited about having this focus group and diving in. And basically just kind of having the rubber meet the road. I know this stuff works, but now I want to be able to take it out a little bit more outside of the classroom and start giving it to more of the community and the parents. So again, if you think that you're interested in being part of the focus group, send me a message, let me know that you are interested, and then I'll either call you or we'll get together and talk a little bit more with some more of the details about it. But more importantly, 3 awesome skills, right? So making sure that you're setting goals and talking to somebody in that industry or somebody with experience so that they can get better, or you can get better and save a lot of time and or money, again, or both. Number 2, making sure that you understand you're making mistakes and what they are so you can fix them. And that's going to help elevate your education on whatever thing you're doing. And the 3rd was basically doing things with a purpose. Making sure that whatever it is, it's not just haphazard, whether it's a basic chore or a full-blown career thing that you're looking at, give it a purpose and you'll find that the success and your investment in it will be a whole lot better. And then finally, if you're interested in the focus group, send me a message and I'll be happy to put you on the list and start working probably in the next couple of weeks with the first 4 to 6 parents and really digging into helping out. I hope you found this video useful. The 3 tips I think are phenomenal and definitely good tips. If you're not sure how to apply them or use them in your situation, as always, just give me a call, send me an email. Love to talk to you about it and help you out any way I can. Have a great weekend and we'll talk soon.